Good morning. Where is everybody? Good morning all. Kathy Belfort, morning to you. Leon Graves, morning, sir. Yes, I'm early today. I have a 1 o'clock event, so I have to leave home around 12 o'clock or a little thereafter. Yes, Wazir, I am all right. But MP duties today, so the choice was either to start early or not do the live at all. And I didn't have that benefit today, unfortunately, because I'm traveling on Friday, so I'll be out of the country from the 1st to the 10th, which includes 2 Sundays, and then the following Sunday is the PNM's Sports and Family Day. So I had to see how I could fit it in over the course of the next couple of weeks. Yeah. Right, Joan Austin, good morning to you. The Nighthawk, good morning. Anne-Marie Books, good morning to you. John Keto, morning. Natalie F. Terence Cummings, Larry McMillan, good morning. Kurt Dalzin, morning to you, sir. Get this thing. Andre Gaskin, good morning to you. Jennifer Ashby Okuli, morning.
News to 12 o'clock. Prime Minister Kamla Prasad Bisesas.
Michelle Nero, good morning. And so let me jump straight into it, and I guess the other folks will jump on, those who are probably expecting me to. Terence is saying in early too, he's got to catch a flight. Morning to you, sir. I know Terence is a frequent flyer like myself, so let me see. What is this? Adarami X is asking, what of that race challenge between yourself, Kareem, and Hans? Right, so that is the PNM's, the big red race, our PNM 5K, which takes place on the 16th of May, the day before the PNM Family Day. So yesterday when we had General Council, as part of the trying to create the hype, they did some interviews with the new MPs, the 4 new MPs, myself, Hans, Butchwood, but Kareem wasn't there. The question was being asked, who would win of the 4 of us, who is likely to place the highest in the 5K. And 5Ks are not my thing. So as I said, I would tip my hat to Hans, because within recent times he's been chasing, as I said, 5Ks and half marathons and so on, right? So yeah, but I have a long-standing knee injury, which prevents me from taking part in activities like that. Yeah, so I will participate, but yeah. Right. So many things happened over the last few days. Yesterday, the UNC had their 1-year anniversary celebration, also marking 37 years as a political party. And so they had their event down in Couva, and which seemed to be washed out. But we heard the Prime Minister say that the police said that there were between 18 to 20,000 persons at the event. I don't know. I wasn't there. So if I'm to take out a word, all that simply says is that the supporters of the UNC are really and truly fully dunce. That level of support and that level of what I want to say, blind loyalty is mind-boggling. I'm sure there were many persons there who lost their jobs under this administration, persons who were former CPEP, URP workers, forestry, but they went there nevertheless. And as I saw somebody say, they wish they could get that type of loyalty from their better half when they mess up. right? But they came out in their numbers, but we would have seen the MPs, UNC MPs going around to their constituencies, trying to drum up support. They would have organized maxis to pass and pick up people and take them there in spite of the inclement weather, to listen to what? Instead of hearing the government talk about their achievements over the last year, instead what we heard was a lot of PNM bashing and what the PNM did over the previous 10 years, and the PNM and what the PNM and the PNM did. All right? They have so little to show for the last 12 months, 1/5 of their term, that all they could do is to go back and remind people not to support us because we did X, Y, and Z and we've improved your lives in the last 12 months. No. Support us because the PNM did this and the PNM did that and the PNM wicked and the PNM racist and the PNM and the PNM. Right? So that is the base of your support to bad talk and bash the PNM. Still campaigning 1 year after having won the election. So we saw Prime Minister, so it seems they've changed their slogan now, so from when UNC wins to better days ahead. But the Prime Minister struggled. I didn't listen to the entirety of her speech, but in the little that I did see, she struggled to articulate any specific measures that is to come that we can see. See there? Yeah. Any specific measures that would point to better days ahead. I don't know, anything? And it is clear they are banking on a windfall come next year from energy revenues. They are hoping that this situation in the Middle East with the war with Iran and the United States and Israel would continue for a protracted period, resulting in sustained high prices for oil and natural gas, and therefore it would narrow the government's budget deficit and give them a little wiggle room to be able to do as they did between 2010 to 2015, to spend money like there's no tomorrow. So they have brought back the second cycle of their POPs program, the program for the upkeep of public spaces, which they introduced in December of 2025, where they hired 220 persons on a 3-month basis. And then they had a 1-month stint for Carnival, right? And they would have hired probably, I think, 1,000 persons for 1 month. And then that was it. I think persons are still owed from both programs, as I understand it. And so now they are about to start the second cycle of the first one. And this one is to run for 6 months from next week, I think, until September. And again, as was the case in the first time around in December, they wait till last minute to send an email to ask PNM MPs to submit 2 names. 2. Right? Just 2 names for laborers. The only position they are making available are for laborers, not the maintenance supervisor, not any of the senior level positions. They just wanted from us 2 names. So 13 by 2, that's 26 names they will take from us. And I understand in December, they would have asked the councillors to provide 2 names as well. This time around, they asked the councillors for 1 name. So you had your pilot. One would imagine that how the way pilot programs work is that you would now be able to assess the efficacy of that program. You could identify what were the strengths, what were the weaknesses, where you need to tweak, what you need to fix, so that in the second cycle, you could get it right. So I can only hope in this second cycle, which is going to run for 6 months, that people will get paid on time and you wouldn't have 3 and 4 fortnights passing and without pay. Of course, because it's, I think they're supposed to be hiring some more people, but we see this for what it is. In order to get selected, you had to go through the Employee TT website. You had to register, put in all your information and so on, all of your details and the like, and in order to be selected. So if you weren't, and there would have been many persons who are looking for work who would not have gone on, perhaps because they didn't have access. Some of the information that they required, the documentation that you were required to upload, persons would not have had that at the ready. And so you would have had to go and spend money to go someplace one of these places where they could do that for you, but if you didn't have money and you don't have any family member who could do it because you had to scan documents to upload, making it difficult for people to get work. But yesterday, the Vancouver, Boston, 1 year, you're better off today than you were 1 year ago. Really? Okay, if you all say so. But they're going to launch. So as I said, each MP was asked to submit 2 names. So coming from our parliamentary bench, we only submitted 26 names. Right? 26 people out of thousands who lost their jobs. And but as I said before, that was only done really to mask what they really intend to do, which is to hire their people. Right? And they don't want it to seem biased. So get paying them some scraps, like fool them and make them feel. But we don't know this time around how many people they're going to hire. So I guess they've heard the cry of persons about the state of the country, but you're still required to bring your own tools, your own PPE, your own uniform, your own everything. The only thing they are providing, and in the questions, when you had to sign up on Employee TT, in the questions, they ask you, are you prepared or are you willing to bring a weed whacker? Are you willing to bring a rake? Are you willing to bring a cutlass? Are you willing to bring your own PPE? All of that. So you had to tick. So I guess if you stated no, you're not willing, well then you hard luck for you, right? Because they're not looking to provide anything, and they're looking for the people who probably end up borrowing money again, like last time, to go and get these things because they're desperate for work. So I submitted my 2 names, so we'll see. I think they called, at least one of the persons indicated that she got a call yesterday to come out 7 o'clock tomorrow. And she's very happy for that because she was one of those persons who lost her job from CPEP. She's been struggling to find work since then. She was living in a house with a couple other siblings. It was an uncomfortable position. She herself has 3 kids, and I understand that the elder sister put her out. So right now, this couldn't have come at a better time. Right? I mean, she sent me a WhatsApp message recently indicating she had no food, she has no money to send the kids to school, and she desperately needed help. And I could have read it for you all, but we don't have the time. So we'll see where that goes. Right? But that is what they're offering. But better days ahead. Whole strain. But when Keith Rowley said, tighten your belt, give us until 2027. They cuss him stink, or the PNM this and the PNM that. But they come into office now, and when they self were attacking Dr. Roy, now they are in office, and they come in to tell you the same thing. Don't worry, better days ahead. Hold on. Prime Minister said yesterday, give us a little time. Yeah, bear with us until 2027. Same timeline that Keith Rowley gave. So yeah, we're not willing to wait under Rowley, and PNM. Kamala come and she say, hey, hold on until 2027. Yes, leader, don't worry. You take your time, man. We know. Think sure. So don't worry, we good on this side. We continue to eat grass happily for the next few months until the next year, until 2027 rolls around and the money starts flowing in here. So we can wait. Don't worry, you do what you have to do. You couldn't do that under Keith Rowley. Anyway. So there are a few stories that I wanted to touch on that I heard in the news yesterday. Before I get to that, so we saw that a picture posted by Stuart Chung a couple of days ago is causing a bit of stir and consternation among the fully duns. All of a sudden, UNC supporters have turned forensic analysts, right? They could analyze a picture and tell you is AI, what is real from what is AI. And of course, I'm referring to the picture that Stuart Chung posted of himself and the President of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez. Now, I can confirm that Stuart was, in fact, out of the country last week, all right? And so, as was to be expected, when that picture was posted, that the fully duns would be very upset because Stuart is showing that he could do something that their leader, their Minister of Energy, the Prime Minister, the Minister in the Ministry of Energy, none of these people could do that, right? None of them can post such a picture. And for all that come, she's the Prime Minister and she this and that, she cannot jump on a plane just so and go to Venezuela and take a picture with Delcy. Well, of course, again, the idiocy of the fully duns decide to attack Delcy. Oh, Delcy is a puppet and Trump puppet, and it no matter what what's the big deal? Who is she? She's a nobody. She had to take orders from Trump and all of that, and these fools continue to attack. Relax all yourself. You all need the woman's permission for gas. Right? Relax. But no, well, they want to play high and mighty because you're listening to Munilal and taking chin up. Dragon gas is on its way, and we have been holding discussions with our partners. Who are your partners? Definitely not the leadership of Venezuela. So, is there proxies? Right? Shell. Today talking to Shell, and Shell only talking to Delcy and her people. But our government cannot do that. So we heard Munilal say, well, this delegation that the Prime Minister announced, this diplomatic delegation that is to go to Venezuela in the next few weeks or months. This is Munilal saying that a couple of days ago. The next few weeks or months. So you're putting together a delegation. We assume you have an agenda, but you don't have a timeline. So you cannot tell us when they're going to go to Venezuela. The Prime Minister couldn't do that either. Perhaps that is why she didn't make mention of that in the Parliament in a statement, because then we would have been able to ask her one pointed question with respect to that, and she would not have been able to answer. All right? So they just put something out there to fool people, and so that's the latest in the next few weeks or months. But they could give no further details in terms of where these discussions are, what are the timelines for Dragon gas to actually come here. And whereas under the PNM, when Stuart Young could have told you, well, this is what it was, a profit sharing, production sharing arrangement. Under this one, we don't know any of those details. So when they come with a nonsense about confidentiality and non-disclosure and all of that, we knew these things under the PNM, right? Yes, there were the confidentiality portions, but we knew at least the basic framework was that it was a profit sharing, production sharing arrangement, which, based on what analysts from Venezuela would have said, was more beneficial to Trinidad and Tobago than it was for Venezuela. And as I've said before, the landscape has changed. So whereas a year ago, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, because of the sanctions on Venezuela and so on, they were in a somewhat of a desperate situation. And since the only country and the only entity that had permission from the US government to do business with Venezuela as it pertains to gas was Trinidad and Tobago and Shell. By the way, we had some leverage to be able to call the shots. Now, since Up North has sort of opened up the energy sector in Venezuela through the provision of OFAC license 49 and 50, allowing other players to come into this situation, unlike what obtained a year ago, right? So entities that could now go in and sit with the Venezuelan government and negotiate for certain blocks, gas blocks and oil blocks and so on, were not able to do that a year ago. And that is why I kept saying a year ago that we were in a unique position in that once we could set up the infrastructure and given the relationship that we had with the government of Venezuela, we would have first preference for fields that had not yet been discussed. So we knew about Laura and Manatee, and we knew about Coquina Manikin and so on, but there were other fields in the Mariscal Sucre region that were just there, that were never part of the equation, and that when they did become part of the equation, Trinidad and Tobago would be front and center, first in line to be able to negotiate to get some of those additional. Now, we are not in that position because our Prime Minister is persona non grata, and Shell is taking full advantage of this opportunity, all right? And while they may keep faith with what was in the pipeline or what was part of the equation before, which is Manatee, Dragon, Coquina Manikin, all right? Remember, we had to put Loran on the back burner because, again, of the whole sanctions issue and all of that, to be revisited sometime in the future. It doesn't seem that our government will be able to revisit that anytime in the future because Shell, based on what was reported, is making its own play for Loran. So if they do get it, it's not going to form part of any profit sharing or production sharing arrangement with the government of Trinidad as would have presented itself when the PNM was in power, right? So all we may benefit from that is perhaps just some taxes from, or perhaps just some fees for our shareholding in Atlantic LNG in the 3 trains because of the restructuring that was done by the wicked and evil PNM. Thank God they did that restructuring, right? So we may be able to get some royalties from our shareholding in that, but that's about it. What could have happened when the PNM was there, it seems could no longer exist, and this government seems totally flat-footed and unable to do anything in terms of being able to mend fences with Venezuela. So when I saw the UNC last couple of days, well, examining the picture and Stuart Young arm, and look how Stuart Young arm looking big, so, and all kind of stupid talk. And that is AI, and who can see that that is AI and so on. But all you had to do was to go on Delcy Rodriguez's Instagram page, right? And you would see that 2 days or 3 days ago, around the same time where the photograph was taken, you would see Delcy is sitting in there's a video that she posted where she's sitting in a boardroom having a meeting, and she's wearing the very same outfit that she was wearing in the picture with Stuart. It's there. So I don't think Stuart is a madman that he would go on Delcy's. He had time to waste. So he, according to the UNC, so he will go on Delcy's Instagram page, because that's the only place I would have seen. I don't know if she's on X, but I'm not on X, so I wouldn't have seen that. But so he would have gone there and to look, let me see, boy, which outfit I want to use that Delcy wearing to create this AI photo. Now, there were videos that she posted after that one, right? So, but Stuart has so much time on his hands to waste that he had to go through and say, all right, I like this one, choose this one. Maybe do something with this one and go through all of that. Okay, he has nothing better to do with his time. But meanwhile, while the fully duns, while the lower ranks of the UNC eating up themselves about his photo and debating if it's AI and all kind of nonsense, you have Monilal took the stage yesterday at the event in Cuba, and he basically corroborated and endorsed and said, well, yes. And he wanted to know why Stuart went there, what he talked about, and if he's trying to undermine negotiations that are taking place with Shell and so on. You know, the usual conspiracy theories. So in their minds, Stuart probably went there to tell Delcy, hey, don't give Monilal and them no dragon gas, right? Hold out until 2030 when we come into power, and then we could negotiate. So let them suffer since they hadn't used the thing. That's basically what they're trying to say. Basically. Well, that is to be expected. All right? And then, of course, you have those on the other side who say, well, he only went there because dragon gas come in, and when we get through, he want to be able to say, well, it's because he went to Venezuela and he talked to Delcy, and that's why we get it. Well, even if that were the case, you all should be happy. All right? But what that shows is that Stuart still has weight. That he's not in government. He's just an ordinary MP on the opposition bench. He's not the opposition leader. At best, he's shadow MP or shadow minister of energy, but that's about it. But he could still pick up the phone and call Delcy. He could still send Delcy a text, a WhatsApp message. He could jump on a plane and go to Venezuela and be received by the president, the highest office in Venezuela, and be received by the president and get an audience with the president of Venezuela. Meanwhile, your great prime minister, she can't even pick up the phone and make a call. She can't even call Mira Flores to say, well, she wants to speak with the prime minister of Venezuela, because Delcy not interested in having any conversations with Madam Persona non grata. Now, in another world, in another dispensation, notwithstanding, and this is the challenge that I have with political acrimony, right? When it is that you're so, the exchanges are so bitter among parliamentarians that our government cannot recognize, look, we need to put the country first. But as Madam Persona non grata said, country before party and go to hell. But if you have, because of the relationships that Stuart would have established, that he, notwithstanding the damaged relationship that the clowns that now running government caused, that you have a man who could still do that. Stuart could appease and say, Delcy, yeah, well, now we know they say things about, but we need it. You know, this is what we arrange. Right? So I am sure he would have a better idea as to where the discussions are and how Trinidad and Tobago is going to benefit or not from what is currently being discussed. And who knows, maybe he can say, well, they'll see here what. I don't want to appear as if I'm interfering anything, but we know you all still have, this government is incapable of negotiating anything with you all right now. And before other people come and take everything that is there, so that by the time 2030 comes around, if we get back into power, it have nothing. Save this first now. Because we know once God grants you good health and life, you will still be in charge come 2030, when up north will be gone, and when hopefully Madam Persona non grata will be gone as well. And all they have all this here, right? We understand it's 200 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. And before everybody else come in and grab up all, and then 2030 come around and nothing left, there was a little thing. I'm not saying that is what happened, right? I'm just speculating. If it was me, that's what I would do. So, well, here what now? Reserve this first now, because yeah. Because we see this one making a play for Laura and whoever, but you have all of this. If you could give us this little feel here, okay, but hold that for us until 2030 or whenever. Please, we beg it. He could do that. Persona non grata can't do that. So, as it stands right now, based on the way negotiations are going to be lost, all we will get is a little thing from our shareholding in Atlantic LNG, but that's about it. What previously existed with profit sharing and production sharing doesn't seem to be on the table anymore. So we just there. We are just stragglers. And we just, please, Delcy, can we have a little bit? Like Oliver Twist, can we have a little bit? That's where we thanks to this government. Right? But time longer than twine. Hopefully, come 2030, those who didn't do what they were supposed to do last year will do what they're supposed to do, and you could return the right party in power, and we could get back to prosperity and all of the great ideas that the PNM had for 2025 to 2030, which is unfortunately now on the back burner, right? So there were a couple of stories. Let me play this one first.
Says government is not scrapping subsidized airfares on the domestic Airbridge. In an interview with the Trinidad Express, the Prime Minister confirmed the $400 return fare remains, stressing the subsidy is vital, especially for Tobagonians traveling to Trinidad for business and essential services. Her comments come after Trade Minister Satyakama Maharaj revealed plans under review to add 2 daily unsubsidized flights to ease congestion. Those extra flights could cost around $1,000 and target last-minute travelers and tourists struggling to get seats. Mr. Maharaj admits the system is strained, saying it can sometimes be easier to fly to Miami than Tobago. But Mrs. Prasad Besessa is...
So Mr. Maharaj admitted that the system is strained and sometimes it's easier to fly to Miami than to Tobago, right? But when this was happening, the same situation, they've been in office for 1 year. When the same situation was happening under the last administration, despite their best efforts, because we have to understand, you need money to buy more planes. If you're buying more planes, you need to hire more pilots, you need to hire more staff, and so on, right? But when the PNM was trying to explain the situation, the folks in Tobago were saying that the PNM was wicked, right? Rowley was trying to frustrate Tobagonians. That's what they were saying. All kind of thing, and they could fix it and they could improve, and they just putting on more flights and increasing the number of flights in the night and all of that. Yeah, the folks who are in charge of the THA now had the worst to say. But here it is that you have the Minister of Tourism saying the system is under strain. 1 year later, they've not been able to fix it. Right? Despite, you hear the one in Tobago saying, the Prasad Besessa administration are trying to frustrate Tobagonians. They're not trying to punish Tobagonians. Right? They say Rowley was punishing Tobago because they lost the THA election, and so he punishing Tobagonians. Really? So what going on now? Not punishment. So now they're saying we will considering introducing these 2 unsubsidized flights at $1,000. So how did we arrive at that $1,000? So are you saying to me then that, and is this $1,000 one way? Is it $1,000 round trip? And are you then saying to me that that is the cost if you remove the subsidy, that is what a flight to Tobago is going to cost? $1,000? Well, if that is so, That subsidy had to be really huge. But what happens in the situation where the majority of people can't afford to pay $1,000, and you have these two unsubsidized flights, and if only 5 people book for this unsubsidized flight, you're going to fly 5 people to Tobago? That making sense, right? You're going to fly 5 people to Tobago on an unsubsidized flight. You're making $5,000 in airfare. You tell me if that making sense. So if you only get 5 people or 10 people, what you going to do? Well, we cancel the flight. Just run the same normal flight, additional flights, instead they just have these 2 unsubsidized. How that really making sense? But we see, as my colleague from Tobago said, Senator Rajman, that this is really what they're doing is a soft launch. That we test the waters and see what is the response we get. And if it is, we realize that we're getting full flights at $1,000, well, hey, we could add more and reduce the number of $400 a ticket flights, because clearly there are people who are willing to spend up to $1,000, and it's just about revenue generation. So when I hear the Minister of Tourism talking nonsense, it's about easing the congestion. How is it easing the congestion? At $1,000, you're going to have less people. So if 2 people book at $1,000, you're going to fly. Does it make sense to fly 2 people to Tobago for $1,000? That's $2,000 they're making on a flight. That's not even enough to cover the cost of fuel. Really? This is a government that, again, we keep telling you all, governing by VUPS, VAPS, and Vaikivai. They decided they were going to do away with the current area, the boarding area for Tobago, and send everybody upstairs through the international gate, right? Because what did they say is in keeping with international best practice and what exists abroad. And therefore, this is what we're going to do. And it was but on the very day, mere hours before you were supposed to have this launch and this ribbon cutting ceremony to launch this new initiative that you said was so great and it would improve the system, what happened? You come now and say, well, now we are on pause indefinitely. Mere hours. So up to the day before, you didn't realize that. So it's just on the morning of, this is making sense, you know. Why? Because you're reading social media comments and you realize people, a lot of buzz, there's a lot of talk about duty-free. And everybody excited, yeah, we're going to pass to duty-free. And you realize the confusion that would cause. Because you're going through the international gate, right? So after you show your passport and you go through the door there, you have to pass through the duty-free area to be able to access the stairs or the escalator to go upstairs for your check to be, right, the security check-in area. You feel people and say, well, hey, I'm walking here. So you would have a situation where people will be going, lining up, taking up the liquor, they walk to the counter and only being told, well, no, there's a domestic. Let me see you, because they'll ask you for your boarding pass. And when they say, well, no, you're not entitled to shop here because this is for international passengers only. And the chaos that would cause. You can't thing. No. Because the procedure is that if you're heading out, they don't give you the alcohol to go with, right? It comes to you just before you board the plane, right? At the entrance to the gangway. So obviously they're not going to do that because you're going upstairs to come back downstairs to walk out on the tarmac to go to the plane, because you're not taking you're not walking out on the sky bridge to board the plane to go to Tobago. So what sense that make? Especially elderly people walk upstairs, go through security, but then you have to come back downstairs to walk out on the tarmac to go onto the plane anyway. When you were already downstairs and it's just to walk through a door and walk out, and that making sense to them. They couldn't figure that out. And they needed to wait until the morning of when this was supposed to be launched to come up with this brilliant idea. Oh, well, we need to put this on pause for a little bit. And so when your prime minister yesterday talked about better days ahead, but she couldn't articulate or give you any granular details as to what better days ahead are going to look like, what they're going to spend money on, what are all of the different programs and so on. It tells you they have no plan. They're winging it. Right? So we will play it by ear, and as the money comes, we will make up things as we go along. No plan. All the things they promised you. No plan. With all the money that they expect, they're still telling public servants, hey, what? 60% non-cash, 40% cash. And that 60% will be paid out over a period of 2 to 4 years. That is left, right? And giving you bonds. And those bonds could probably have tenure anywhere between 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. So you could get these bonds and you never get to enjoy your back pay and you drop down dead and then somebody come after you and inherit it. Or you could choose to sell it, but you sell it at a discount. So when you said, man, you say, well, yeah, I mean, pay now, I'll take it off your hands, but for $5,000 less, and you desperate for money, well, I'll take it. Right? No plan. But we go in again.
But Mrs. Prasad Besessa is pushing back on any confusion, saying subsidized flights are here to stay, while the proposal for additional unsubsidized services is still being analyzed. She's urging the public to get the facts before jumping to conclusions. The Prime Minister also reaffirmed her government's commitment to improving inter-island transport, working alongside Tobago Chief Secretary Farley Augustine and the Tobago House of Assembly. Meanwhile, Chief Secretary Farley Augustine has announced in the coming days...
Get the facts straight. This is the same one who told you all the government, the last administration, was going to introduce a inheritance tax that only she knew about. Nobody else. Where did she get those facts from? Right. Anyway, Lord have mercy. Going again. That's not. Let me get it say.
Announcement of international flight to Tobago, deepening of Tobago's tourism thrust. He spoke with News Center 5.
Since COVID, we have some surprises coming up with Caribbean Airlines, which we will announce in May. And we'll be happy to announce in May because we'll be seeing some deepening partnerships for our tourism product and direct flights to Tobago from other international territories. I mean, that is coming up, right? I expect the team sometime next week to sign, and once that was all contractual obligations are signed, then we'll be free to announce.
Well, nearly 8 years after 5 young men were gunned down near their homes in Laventille, a High Court judge ruled their deaths were unlawful. The judge ordered the state to pay more than $4 million in compensation. Michak Douglas, Shaquem Francois, Shondell Sinclair, Nicholas Barker, and Kudiam Phillip were killed by police on October 25, 2018 on Upper Wharton Street, Trumacak, Laventille. In a judgment that sharply criticized both the actions of officers and the investigation that followed, Justice Marcia Ayres Caesar rejected the state's account of a shootout. More from Onika James.
According to the family's case, 22-year-old Mr. Douglas was liming with friends when officers from the Interagency Task Force entered the yard, confronted him and shot him in the chest. 19-year-old Mr. Sinclair attempted to flee but was caught, beaten and shot. The other victims, aged 15 and 23, were also killed during the incident. One man reportedly escaped. Police had maintained that the men opened fire, prompting a deadly exchange. However, Justice Ayres Caesar dismissed that version, pointing to glaring inconsistencies and a lack of supporting evidence. Autopsy findings showed that at least 2 of the victims were shot at close range, directly undermining claims of a gun battle. The judge also questioned the firearms police claimed they recovered, noting they bore no signs of use. She stated that it was passing strange that neither weapon had a trace amount of blood, dirt, or any appearance as if it had been used at all. The judge further criticized the handling of the case by investigators, stating that the failure to properly examine the incident raised troubling implications. She stated, the inadequacy of the investigation can only lead one to conclude that there may have been attempts to cover up what actually took place. On the evidence, Justice Ayres Caesar ruled that the officers acted with reckless disregard for the law and the lives of the victims, finding them liable for assault and battery, as well as malfeasance in public office. She awarded damages, stressing that the compensation reflected the court's condemnation of the conduct involved. For News Center 5, I am Onika James.
So why did I play that story? When I heard it, I was very concerned, particularly with the findings of the judge, right? That she dismissed all of the claims that were being made, not by defense attorneys, but by attorneys representing the state. That this single judge was able to analyze all of this information, all of this evidence, and so on, and come to that conclusion. And you had attorneys representing the state trying to defend and prevent having to pay this 4 million or whatever the judge would have awarded, would come there and lie to the judge. Because if the judge could look at this and all of this evidence, all of this information, and come to that conclusion, you're trying to tell me that these attorneys, these lawyers who represent the state, couldn't come to the same conclusion? And it's not one lawyer. So several of them looking at the same evidence, and they concluded that the story that was given by the police was correct. This one judge, is looking at you saying, well, this isn't making no sense to me. The case all you're arguing, they're not making any sense. And you see, that's the problem that we have in this country, right? And which is why the justice system is the way that it is. Because when you have attorneys, and they're not, these are attorneys that are working for whichever state department, whether it be the DPP's office or wherever, right? You collecting a salary. But you are willing to go to court and impugn your own integrity to try to defend that case because you're looking at this, right? And you see it, hey, this is not enough. So you have to now craft a way to go to the court and try and convince the judge that what you yourself don't believe is the truth. And Justice A.S. Caesar, we know Justice A.S. Caesar, she was the former head magistrate, chief magistrate who was embroiled in that whole bacchanal under the former chief justice, and when she was to become a judge and all the thing, and she eventually won her challenge and she became a judge, right? But she's saying, hey, based on what I see in here, this isn't making sense. And I wouldn't doubt that perhaps Justice A.S. Caesar, to satisfy her own mind, might have conferred with maybe one or two of her other colleagues. You see in this? What do you think about this? Or perhaps maybe one of her attorney friends. I don't know if that happened, but I'm saying, again, if it were me, that's what I would do, right? Because I would want to make sure, because I am seeing this. And these lawyers are coming before me to argue this case, to tell me that the police say these men opened fire on them, and this is what has happened. But just what I'm seeing here, it's just not adding up. And attorneys come in to defend that to the judge and present that case. Why? So that to avoid the state having to pay compensation to the families of these men who were killed. So you are telling me the well-being of the families of these men who based on what is in front of you, were killed innocently. That for you, it is more important to save the state money than to ensure that these families are compensated for their loved ones being killed unlawfully. Now that Justice A.S. Caesar has made this judgment, and basically she has put culpability on the part of the police, and she's saying, see this here, this is making sense. She has declared, this is a judge. So if she has said that, it means that if these officers are now arrested, and if they are to come before her, based on the evidence that is before her, them guilty, right? And then we have David West, who is the head of the PCA, when interviewed said, well, hey, you see, with respect to this matter, my office, we did our investigation and we recommended that murder charges be proffered against the police officers. That didn't happen. So anybody who wants to doubt the judgment of Justice A.S. Caesar, well, her judgment has been backed up by what Mr. David West has said, that they recommended his office, the Police Complaints Authority, would have sent a recommendation for the officers to be charged. What is the status of this investigation? Is it still under investigation? Is the file still with the DPP? Were these officers exonerated, or is the DPP still examining this file to make a decision? Well, I would think, given this judgment and what David West has said, the DPP, there's only one decision for the DPP to make. One decision. But it is unfortunate where it is a possibility that some of the same lawyers who would have come to argue this case before the state, on behalf of the state, to convince the judge that the 5 men who were killed justifiably, that they may be making the same decision as to whether or not this matter, charges should be proffered against the officers and they should make a jail. How can we have any confidence or trust in these attorneys? Is it just about money for you? About making a paycheck? That you have, because and the thing about it is the media publishes the names of these attorneys. So we know you have no integrity. That's why you decided to pursue law, to do that. And you are looking at this evidence. So if you were a defense attorney, you would be saying something differently. You would examine it through the same lens and you would see the same inconsistencies in the police story and say, nah, boy, nah, this ain't holding water. But Justice A. Caesar, could I tell you, well, let's say the men fired back, but the guns, based on what we see in here, these guns, there's no mud, no blood, no nothing on it. That doesn't corroborate the story that you all gave. But you have lawyers standing up in a court to want to tell the judge, well, this is how it happened, this is how it happened. The judge sit down there and she's probably saying to herself, nah, boy, is this what this profession has come to? You all really trying to convince me of this? Did you all look at the same documents, the same evidence that I looked at? And that is the conclusion you came to? Thank God they have judges like Justice A. Caesar, right? For shame. But anyway, so I wanted to play this for you just to give you all an example of the persons who, the caliber of persons who attended the UNC meeting yesterday. Tell me if you all could understand anything this man said. And the harsh reality is, he could vote.
So what's brought you here today? Well, today has brought me here because of our country and the state that is in. And I would really like to see our improvement based on our economy, based on our people that are struggling in society. Now, my effect is based on helping each other, right, in building their emotion.
You all understand what he's saying there? Well, today has brought me here today because reminds me of the waterfront ilk. Why are you here? Well, we come to support the Prime Minister, Kamla Prasad Bisesa. Do you know what the bill is about? Well, everything good. the bill. Yeah, the debate in the bill. You know what the bill is about? Actually, I don't actually. And yet still, these people could vote, right? People could vote. You see what? You see? That's the problem. PNM, we don't have supporters like that. All right? Yeah. Man struggling to articulate there, boy. Let's listen to another one.
Right, Dom, can you tell us why you're here today and what has brought you in all this rain to come here to Cleveland?
I want to see change and I love my Prime Minister and I just want to see change in my country.
You are here from the Bad constituency. How have things changed for you over the year?
To me, I see a lot of change, especially with crime.
And what do you see going forward for the next 4 years?
I am here because I want to see change and I'm here for my Prime Minister. What change have you seen? Well, I have seen plenty change, especially with crime. Really? What change have you seen? You smoking the same thing that your Prime Minister and they smoking telling you about serious crime has fallen by 42%. And they still quoting that 42%. Never mind the fact that we're about 114, 115 murders for the year, or basically one a day. But you have seen change with respect to crime. Really? All right. Well, the police service told us one of the issues, one of the crimes that this government, this party came into power on was the issue of home invasions, right? Imagine 2 o'clock in the morning, you're sleeping in your bed, when your wife lie down and 3 armed men come and kick down your door and they come to rape your wife and rape your daughter. Imagine 10 o'clock in the night, you sit down watching a movie with your family and 3 big armed men come in, kick down your door and they come to rape your wife and your daughter. That was all we kept hearing over the campaign. Imagine. We had Alexander. Turn off the light there for me. Turn off the light. We want effect. Yeah, we want to create an ambience. Imagine you lie down in your bed because the light's off. And 3 men kick down your door. And they come to harm you and to rape your wife and rape your daughter. That's all they're talking about, rape. They had the consultations for stand your ground, and that every MP after MP, UNC MP after you, imagine, kick down your door, rape your wife and your daughter. Well, we had quite a few home invasions taking place over the last couple of days. And nobody's wife and daughter was raped. Well, at least not what was reported. All right? Let's see if I get this here. Hold on. Let me see some of the headlines. Right. Where is it? So one of the headlines, ice pick and cutlass used in Barrackpore home invasion. Right? A Barrackpore family was left traumatized after two armed men broke into their home in the early hours of Friday, tied up the homeowner and beat him during a violent robbery. The incident occurred around 3:45 a.m. at a house along Jaipal Singh Road, police said. According to reports, the 31-year-old electrician had secured his home and gone to bed with his family around 9 p.m. on Thursday. He was asleep in an upstairs bedroom with his wife when he was awakened by an intruder. Police said a man described as being of East Indian descent, about 5 feet 8 inches tall, and armed with an ice pick, placed his hand over the victim's mouth and warned him not to make any noise. The homeowner was then restrained on his bed. A second suspect, described as being of African descent, about 5 feet 10 inches tall, entered the room armed with a cutlass. He ordered the victim's wife and 61-year-old mother into another room as the criminals began ransacking the house. During the ordeal, the second suspect returned to the bedroom and assaulted the victim, beating him while demanding money and jewelry. The bandits eventually escaped on foot with a quantity of jewelry valued at $28,300 and $1,100 in cash. Right? And then we had some other headlines where there was another home invasion that took place same day. Let me see if I get this one here. So, let me get it here. Is that one story? Daylight home invasion. Family robbed at gunpoint in Chaguanas. The father was in the carport area preparing to enter his house when he was confronted by two men who announced a robbery. One of the suspects was armed with a firearm while the other carried a knife. We go in again. Same day, girls 9 and 13 tied up, doctor's family terrorized. The intruders assaulted him with blows about his body and dragged him into the living room area. There he discovered his wife and two daughters, aged 13 and 9, lying bound with their hands and feet tied. I won't go into all of the details of those stories, right? But nobody get raped, right? They come to rape your wife and your daughter. No wives and daughters were raped. But that is what they accused us in the opposition of fear-mongering. Yes, that's what we're doing. But what they were doing, you telling big men, hear what? We want your vote. Home invasions are a thing under the PNM. You're not safe in your own home. You need a matic to load it up, empty the clip, reload and empty it again. Put us in office, right? But here what we want you to imagine, even if you're not convinced. Sit down on a chair on your porch and imagine 3 big hardback men kick down your door and they come to rape your 9-year-old daughter or your 13-year-old daughter or rape your wife. They want you to conjure up that image in your head. Right? Any of them on the government bench who have daughters and wives want to imagine that? But no, that's what they were telling you. Imagine that. That disgusting, vile image, conjure it up in your head. And let that be your motivation when you go out on April 28th to cast your ballot. You just keep telling yourself, this government will protect you and your family, your wife and your daughters from getting raped. Okay? Home invasions continue. Stand your ground is law. It's been law for months now. Right? But the police said, yeah, other crimes down. But you know what is up? Home invasion. So apparently the criminal element didn't get the memo or they didn't receive the email that stand your ground is now law. And therefore, hey, that was supposed to bring down home invasions. They're doing it more brazen now in the daylight. They ain't waiting until 2 o'clock in the morning as the government told you to imagine, or 10 o'clock in the night. No, they come in during the daylight now to invade your home. And you there, you didn't know, homeowner, you didn't know that stand your ground is law, you could stand your ground. The man was lying in his bed and they put the fellow who put his hand over his mouth with the ice pick to his throat. How that homeowner was going to stand his ground? The doctor who was in his garage getting ready to go inside his house and 2 men just run up on him. Just so, because he thought he was safe. Hey, because UNC in power now, PNM not there. crime was only when PNM in power, crime goes up. So he's safe. 2 men run up on him. How was he supposed to stand his ground? Even if he had a gun, they might have taken it from, relieved him of it. And there would be one more gun outside there to be used. Right? Any of these scenarios, any of these people could have stand their ground, and that is what we were telling people. Stand your ground is a waste of time. It's just a mama guy thing. There was nothing different than what the common law was for you to be able to defend yourself. But they were able to still stand your ground on the basis of load up the matic, pull it back, knock it on them and knock it again and again. And everybody thought stand your ground law meant you would be able to get a firearm. 1 year in office, promise made, promise kept, promise delivered. But the promise to come and amend the laws to allow you to be able to make it easier for the average citizen, law-abiding citizen to own firearms. Where is it? They come to Parliament with all kind of stupid law. But they didn't come with that. And now you have the police commissioner telling you having a gun does not mean or necessarily mean that you're going to be safe. And as it is right now, unless the law that they claim they're going to bring is going to take away that responsibility from the commissioner of police to be the sole authority to sign off and to grant firearm users licenses, unless they plan to take that from him and give it to somebody else. If this commissioner, if that process remains under this commissioner based on his utterances over the last few days, all you're getting no damn gun. Use your cutlass, use your 2x4, the same things that you had available to you before, your Chinese chopper, right? Your whatever, your baseball bat, your golf club, whatever it is, use that if you could use it. So basically, you're going to continue to bring a piece of wood to a gunfight. Yeah, but you all took chain up and went and vote for that. Telling you, say, yeah, we're going to get gun, come, we're going to make it easier. So, all right, gun nothing. Or they get fooled up. Poor souls. So, the Auditor General's report was laid in the Senate on Friday. And what is interesting to me is the fact that it has not yet come to the lower house. On the next sitting of the lower house, it will come. We were supposed to have had a sitting Friday gone. It was supposed to be Private Members' Day. And, well, that was the plan. Unfortunately, because the government had their big celebration yesterday, and I imagine that several members of the lower house were perhaps part of the planning committee, Parliament wasn't important for them. And as members, private members, they basically were the PNM to come and talk and bring their motion. So instead of we just wasting time to sit down in the Parliament and listen to them, let me deal with planning our event. So your business in the Parliament had to take a back seat to their 1 year anniversary celebration. Right? Nobody asking where they get all the money from for all this big stage and all these tents and all this everything else. Nobody asking that question. But they want to know about PNM and Balize House. We'll come into that just now. I'm going to look at the time here because I have to leave by 12 o'clock. Right? So, but that's what we had to do. So we didn't have Parliament. But the Auditor General's report was laid. And so far, we've seen aspects of it being published in the media. Interesting aspects of it. I'm just going to deal with one now because I tried to access a copy of it, but it's not yet available in, well, you think as a parliamentarian, I could get a copy, right? But I guess after it's laid in the lower house, then it will probably be available for public consumption so that I could go through it. Because, and it's interesting, right? 2 years ago, UNC supporters, oh, they nobody, all of a sudden they discovered there's something called an Auditor General's report. Yeah, money, Auditor General said money missing, 2.6 billion missing, it was 3.3. She finds 700 and some, despite the fact that Airbridge gave you an explanation for the 3.3, the original figure, the 700 and something million dollars plus the 2.6 billion, all right? They accepted the explanation for the 7 something, and they went on to 2.6. We're not accepting that explanation from Airbridge because the Auditor General continued to dig in her heels and insist she needs to verify that. And she needs to go to the central bank and she wants to see the electronic check clearing system and all of that. And the former central bank governor denied her access and all of that. Well, he gone. You have a new central bank governor. He is there. He has been there for months. So one asks the question, what is happening to that? Because you bring out our next report, 2 reports hence, and we're still trying to get closure with respect to that. But the Auditor General, she quiet on that. Okay. So is it that this central bank governor is also denying you access to the electronic check clearing system so you could verify that what Airbridge said was true and that it wasn't any money missing, but it was an error with respect to that system? Where are the calls? And I say this is why I had to say sometimes my PNM supporters disappoint me. Because while the UNC supporters continue to talk about 2.6 billion missing on Airbridge, where are the calls from the PNM supporters calling on the Auditor General? Well, all of the obstacles that you claim that prevented you from being able to verify what Airbridge said by going to central bank and interrogating the electronic check clearing system have been removed. Airbridge is no longer there. Laventille is no longer there. The UNC is in charge. So anything you want, you could get. So what is the outcome of that? It's been 2 years. This month made it 2 years since that issue came to the fore. What's going on? No conclusion yet? Or is it that the conclusion is going to exonerate Airbridge and the PNM, and we can't have that? So let me get to that. Right? Let me get to that. All of a sudden now, UNC supporters saying that the Auditor General is she's a PNM. Oh boy, never a dull moment with these people. Never a dull moment. Let me see if I get this here. Right. Auditor General flags 36.56 billion in unverified tax revenue. Why does that sound familiar? Auditor General flags 3.3 billion in unverified tax revenue. Now, this is the headline today. Auditor General flags 36.56 billion in unverified tax revenue. The same thing. Auditor General flags 3.3. So now we went from 3.3 to 36.56. 10 times the amount. And that didn't happen under the PNM. Happened under the UNC. 10 times the amount that was quoted under Airbridge. Where the UNC faithful? Where are you all? All of you all who say, the Privy Council say, investigate Airbridge. Money missing, can't verify. But now the Auditor General is telling you 36.56 can't be verified. 10 times the amount under Airbridge. Where are you all? Where are the experts? Where are the men and women of letters? Where is Indira Sajiwan? Where is Professor Hossain? And all the others, all the other economists. Where is Dr. Shane Mohammed? Where is he? Where is Rudal Munilal? All of you all who had many things to say. Money missing, can't verify. Munilal said it was Airbridge trying to cook the books. Right? That's what he said. That Airbridge was overstating the revenue by 3.3 billion to make it look as if the economy was performing better than it really did, but that money didn't exist. But Airbridge lied. But now the Auditor General is telling you we can't verify 36.56 billion. Where the documentation? Same thing she was asking for. I'm not hearing the UNC. I'm not hearing the fully dance. But as I used to always say, under the UNC, less is more and more is less, because 3.3, or dare I say 2.6, is more than 36.56. There's nothing to say about that. Nah, this Auditor General, now she's PNM. Let me just touch on it quickly. Auditor General Jaiwanti Ramdas, same Auditor General, has issued a qualified opinion on Trinidad and Tobago's 2025 public accounts, citing discrepancies involving billions of dollars in tax revenue and unsupported government spending that cast doubt on the accuracy of the country's financial statements. In her report, Ramdas said 36.56 billion in tax revenue could not be verified because of unreconciled differences across key accounting systems, including Treasury records and Inland Revenue Division reports. How come Madam Persona non grata didn't talk about that yesterday on the platform? Because she had plenty to say with him, but she was silent on this, right? Because I'm sure they would have gotten a copy before and they could scrutinize. Last year, just after she became Prime Minister, she came and again, she interrogated the Auditor General's report and come and tell us some nonsense about how much some money unverified and missing and all kind of choppy talk. She spoke about that once and then she left it alone. But they say he's silent on the Auditor General's report. Why? Because you all were in government. She also found that $1.59 billion in expenditure, or about 2.43% of total government spending, lacked supporting documentation, preventing verification of whether the payments were properly made and recorded. Where the UNC supporters? Where y'all? Because if this was an account of the PNM stewardship, now you all would have been all over Facebook, all over social media. The thief thing and the PNM thief, and since in the days of O'Halloran, where are you? This is a record of your government's performance. The report of the Auditor General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago on the public accounts, right, for the financial year ended September 30th, 2025 was laid in the Senate on Friday. And rest assured, I intend to interrogate that full report, because I'm pretty sure they have a lot more inside it. And we will highlight the hypocrisy of the UNC supporters who are the de facto defenders of proper governance. We are against corruption. The PNM so corrupt, but only quiet on this. But there's one thing in particular that I wanted to identify, right? But I'll continue. Ramdas said the qualified opinion was based on these discrepancies in tax records and unsupported expenditure identified during the audit. There were material differences in value-added tax and individual income tax revenues when comparing figures shown on the three main accounting records: the Statement of Revenue, Treasury record, the Statement of Receipts and Disbursements, and the Gen Tax reports. These differences remain unreconciled at year-end, and I was unable to determine whether any additional adjustments might have been found necessary in respect of reported tax revenue of $36.56 billion. Supporting documents were not provided to verify payments of $1.59 billion, representing approximately 2.43% of total reported expenditure of $65.45 billion. I was unable to verify the occurrence, accuracy, and classification of these transactions and was unable to determine whether any adjustment to the total reported expenditure was necessary. Ramdas said the audit was conducted in accordance with principles and concepts of international standards of supreme audit institutions. It goes on. But here's the one that I wanted to highlight. Now, everything I mentioned there, we will discuss at a later date in more detail. I bet you're not going to get any discussions from the UNC on that. All the more pieces that they have on 91.1. You think they're going to talk about this? No, but if it was against the PNM, that would have been the discussion whole week. Ramdas noted that the exchequer account, the bank account for the consolidated fund, remained overdrawn at $51.94 billion at the end of the period. What period is that? September 30th, 2025. Who was in government? The UNC. An 11.55% increase from the $46.56 billion the previous year. The exchequer account has been consistently in overdraft since 2003, Ramdas said. Why is that important? You all would have heard me speak on numerous occasions about the exchequer account, those of you who are regular listeners. And you would have heard me say in 2010, when the UNC came into office, the People's Partnership, the overdraft on the exchequer account at that time, what they met was just over 10 billion. Well, it's a little less because the PNM, as you would recall, between 2007 to 2010, had gone on a massive infrastructure development program where we got entities like NAPA, SAPA, Prime Minister's Residence and Diplomatic Center, the Chancery Lane administrative complex, all of the houses that the government was building and so on, all of these different things, the waterfront, the Port of Spain waterfront, the government campus, which now houses the office, the Attorney General's towers, the Ministry of Education, the tower, the Board of Inland Revenue tower on Ajax Street, next to the Customs building. As you know, Customs used to rent for years from that blue glass building from from Nicholas, Issa Nicholas Sunday. And when the PNM came in, right, those buildings were left empty for 5 years under the People's Partnership, and the PNM came in 2015 and outfitted it and moved all of those entities into those offices, saving the state millions, tens of millions of dollars in rent. But Mr. Manning would have built all of that, and that would have taken the exchequer account into overdraft up to 10 billion. The People's Partnership came into office in 2010, right? And if it is that you look at the Auditor General's report and you look at the trend, the expenditure trend between October of 2009 up until May 2010, when the PNM was still in office, you would see that based on the expenditure trajectory, it was heading to where that overdraft, which was recorded at just about 10 billion at the end of financial year 2009, 2008 into 2009, that it was headed to being reduced, right? So let's just say they came in and it was 10 billion as at the end of September 2009. September 30th, 2009. When they left office in September of 2015, it was 33.3 billion in overdraft. So it went up by $23 billion in the space of 5 years. I always say they didn't build anything close to what the Manning administration built. And most of what they built was built based on loans from the Chinese. The Cuba Children's Hospital, the Aquatic Center, the Cycling Velodrome, the Racket Center, most of the other things, they borrowed money from the Chinese to build all of these things. So they can't even say, well, okay, the money went there. So we are still at a loss as to where that money, that additional 23 billion that was spent in addition to the money that they took from NGC, and they had the highest energy revenues in the country's history at that time, according to Prasad Bisesa. Right? So it went up by 23 billion. So if you divide 23 billion by the 5 years, right, they're looking at about 4.6 billion per year that they were adding to the exchequer account in overdraft, average of 4.6. So they came into office. So it was 46.56 according to the Auditor General as at the end of the financial year, September 30th, 2024. Okay? So the PNM came in 2015, it was 33. They demitted office. The last figure we had was 46. So it means that over the course of 10 years, the PNM would have been responsible for increasing the overdraft on the exchequer account by 13 billion. 13 billion over 10 years is an average of 1.3 billion every year over 10 years. In comes the UNC in April or the 1st of May 2025. How much did it go to? From 46.56, it went up to 51.94, an increase of over $5 billion between May and September. So they were in office for a full 5 months. And this is what you end up with. So 10 years under the PNM, average 1.3 billion increase over 10 years. They come into office, and in the space of 1 year or half a year, we have an increase of over $5 billion. Almost $5.2 billion. You know what that means? So in just less than a year, what it would have taken the PNM 4 years to achieve, the UNC achieved it in 6 months or 5 months of governance. May, June, July, August, September. 5 months. Took the PNM 5 years to increase the overdraft on the exchequer account by $5+ billion. They did it in 5 months. I told you all about that. What did they do with that? They build anything? What did they build? Nothing. They paving roads? No. Patching roads. What else did they do? Anybody of you UNC supporters could tell me? What did they do? Because the government getting money, energy revenues, they would have gotten. And that's why I want to see the exchequer, I want to see the Auditor General's report so we can see where the bulk of that expenditure took place. When? Which months? And I bet you, August, September, you're going to see. Right? So if they continue along this trajectory, in the space of 5 months, Lord knows where it is now, but we will check and find out. 5 point some billion. And I have to keep stressing that. It would have taken the PNM at an average of 1.3 billion per year, right? It would have taken the PNM 4 years to do what the UNC did in 5 months. But you have people like Indira Sajiwan telling you, oh, the UNC brought the economy back from the brink of disaster. Let me read it exactly for you, and I don't want to misquote. Let me get it here. And what makes it worse is that this woman is a director on the board of Central Bank. She has daily access to all this information, right? She's a director. The Central Bank collates all this information, so she has access to it. But still posted this drivel. Economist Dr. Indira Sajiwan says Trinidad and Tobago's economy was on the brink of collapse when the UNC-led coalition of interest government took office in April 2025, forcing urgent intervention to stabilize the country's finances. The country's finances stabilized now, madam. The overdraft has gone up by over $5 billion in the space of 5 months. That is stabilized? Okay. You know how much interest has to be paid on that? Yes, that overdraft is attracting interest. So that additional $5 billion that no UNC supporter could tell me what the hell the UNC spent that money on in the last year. Well, not last year, because this was up to September 2025. What they spend it on? Speaking on Keep It Real one-on-one podcast on Tuesday, Sajiwan described the economic conditions inherited by the administration as severe and deeply complex. This government came into office at a time when the economy of Trinidad and Tobago was potentially having to be put on life support, she said. The situation was quite dire at 46 billion overdraft. But now at 51, almost 52, because it's 51.94, almost 52 billion in overdraft on the exchequer account. No, we're not on life support. No, we're better off. Your debt profile has gone up significantly, but you're better off. Thanks to the UNC. We were on the brink at 46, but at 52, hey, everything good. Sajiwan explained that while official debt figures were already high, the full extent of the country's financial challenges only became clear after the transition of power. The level of indebtedness that they inherited, the level of indebtedness that they inherited was very significant, she said, noting that additional obligations were uncovered. When they went into office and they actually started to unearth some things they found that there were so many expenditures that had taken place based on either borrowings or sale of assets or using credit from suppliers which was not paid. This, she said, placed immediate pressure on the new administration to act. According to Sajiwan, the government's first task was not expansion but stabilization. The government therefore had to engage in crisis management in order to be able to stabilize the economy. Yet, despite these constraints, she offered a measured assessment of the administration's first year in office. For the most part, within this year in office, the government has done a fairly decent job, she said, adding that it deserves to be recognized and praised for its handling of the situation. Let me go back to the Auditor General report. So you hear what she said? Talk about debt. Let me get it here. Hold on. Just now. Where is it? So let me get it here. Hold on. Right. The Auditor General reported that the public debt stood at 117.46 billion as at September 30th, 2025. An increase, not a decrease. The cost PNM up and down, increasing the debt to GDP ratio, and the only incurring debt that our children and grandchildren will have to pay for. put us in office and we will fix the problem and we will reduce public debt, because when we were in office, the public debt was X. And under this administration, what they did, they came and they increased the ceiling, the borrowing ceiling. Now, how much? 50 billion, from 45 million to 50 billion. This government did that. The Auditor General reported that the public debt stood at 117.46 billion as at September 30th, 2025, an increase of 7.32 billion or 6.65% from the previous year, with total debt amounting to 191% of total revenue. Where all the UNC bleeding hearts, all of you who are so concerned that the PNM was incurring debt that is going to put your children and grandchildren in debt for generations to come, where are you? Well, you're gone silent. You all forget again that there's something called an Auditor General's report. You're not interested in this one. No, you were interested in 2024 and 2023 and 24. 25, forget that. We're not interested in Auditor General's reports anymore. We don't want to hear about that. Put that on a shelf. Because it doesn't serve your purpose anymore, because you're in office. So you couldn't care how your money's spending. But when I and others were warning you all, be careful if you put these people in power. Because when it have money, and they ain't start a bill yet, but they hit all of this 3.4 billion and the Prime Minister come to tell you, well, no public money was going to be spent. So she say. Right? They ain't start to pave road yet. They ain't start to build anything yet. And all this money spending. She goes on to give the account of what the public debt comprises. Then there is another issue. Misuse of 78 million in housing funds. In a separate finding, the Auditor General said funds allocated for housing infrastructure were used for routine maintenance expenses by the Housing Development Corporation, contrary to approved purposes. Just remember, they fire all the PNM contractors, all of them they get rid of, and they bring in their own new contractors. Foster and companies related, well, they fire everybody. Don't forget that. Section 92C of the Exchequer and Audit Act, Chapter 6901 states that the Auditor General shall satisfy herself that all money expended has been applied to the purpose or purposes for which the same was granted by Parliament, and that such expenditure conforms to the authority which governs it and has been incurred with due regard to the avoidance of wastage and extravagance. She said a sum of $78,071,196 was allocated under Infrastructure Development Fund. Affordable Housing Program was released by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development to the Housing Development Corporation for housing and infrastructure works. However, the HDC used the monies to pay various contractors engaged directly by the HDC for services such as grass cutting, garbage collection, and drainage cleaning. The use of funds was inconsistent with the approved purpose and contrary to applicable financial directives, Ramdas stated. Because when the budget is read in September, October, right? You all would note there is something called the Standing Finance Committee, where we, in the opposition, will have these big yellow books with all of the line-by-line expenditure and the allocations, and we would go through it, and we would ask, Minister, what is this 78 million for? What is this 26 million for? Please give us some details. And the ministers now have to come and justify that this figure is for this, and this is what it is intended for use. And if we are satisfied with that, we then move on. If not, we will ask for further information. And then when that stage or that phase of the budget debate is completed, then we would move for the vote, and the budget is then passed in the lower house. And then, of course, we have the upper house debate. But it's passed in the lower house, it's a money bill. So once it passes in the lower house, it's official. Right? So no minister or ministry can, without parliamentary approval, say, well, we get 78 million for this, but we're going instead and use it for that. No, it doesn't work that way. The parliament did not approve that. All right? That is why we are presented with the yellow books, so we can see all the expenditure and we could question it to make sure it's above board and only not running a racket. So if you come to the parliament, you have things itemized, you have allocations itemized, and we ask you about it, and you tell us it's going to be used for this, and we are satisfied, okay, this is a just expenditure, so we approve it. And then, after the budget is passed, you go and you take the money and use it for something else. You have deceived the parliament. We did not vote on that, whether it's the opposition and government, did not approve that. So for that money to be used in that way, the minister has to come back to Parliament during the mid-year review, either with a supplementation where he's asking for additional money, or a variation of appropriations where he's seeking Parliament's approval to move money that was allocated to one thing to use it for something else. So what the Auditor General is saying is that you see where the Ministry of Housing took money that was approved by the Parliament during the budget debate for one thing and put it for somewhere else, and the minister did not come to Parliament with a variation of appropriations, that is illegal. That didn't happen under the PNM. Red flag, $78 million. Where Indira Sajiwan? Where is Sheen Mohammed? Where are all the other economists and them? Where is Dr. Hussain? Where is Vanas James? Winford James? Where are they? Who wanted to rake the PNM over the coals and used to look at PNM expenditure with a fine-tooth comb and a magnifying glass? Where are you all? Well, you didn't see the story. No, you all were busy in Kuva. So dismissed you. No comment on this. We're all the talk show hosts. Let me see if my good friends at I-95.5 will discuss this tomorrow morning. And let's see the other radio talk show hosts who are so concerned about corruption and good governance, if they will speak on this issue. Now just remember, you don't have no PNM on 91.9 and 91.1 and all these stations again to discuss these things in the public domain, right? So all you have is Darian Marcel. That's about it. Who else well? And John Benoit. But John wouldn't go into this in the granular detail that others might. He may touch on it, people will call in and give their opinions. But that's about it. So outside of platforms such as this, right, and I suppose Rhoda Barrett might make some mention of it, but really and truly, those that are opposed to the government and who will interrogate this, we are in the minority. But that's okay for the UNC supporters, right? They will come here, they'll send their minions, right? And the bots to come here and talk rubbish in my comments. But ask them to speak about this. They cannot. Where is Winston Bachelor? Where are they? You have Kishan has arrived. The PNM will get bad licks in 20 years. You see the same thing I'm talking about? He will come here with comments like that. But here it is that you have the Auditor General, same Auditor General that they loved so much 2 years ago, coming to tell you, identify things that you should be concerned about as a citizen. Forget that you're a UNC cult member, right? Forget that you are a blind UNC sycophant. Forget that for a moment. Put on your citizen's hat and study that. That if this was a report card on the PNM stewardship, you would have been coming here with all kind of thing and telling me to talk about this and talk about that and why I don't talk about this and why I don't talk about that. That's what you'd have been coming with. But you can't defend this. So you know what you're coming with to tell me nonsense, but the PNM will get bad licks in 2030. Well, you don't call the election now. Call it now. Don't wait until 2030. Call it now since you're so sure. Everybody else, me and Motley called the early election. You have early election called in Antigua and Barbuda because they're sure they're going to win. Tell your Prime Minister, call it now and see. If that crowd, that purchase crowd that you all had in Cuba yesterday, your figure could win your election, call it now and see. That's nonsense. That's why I said UNC supporters are the most dangerous people in this country. Well, you can say what all you want about PNM supporters. PNM supporters demonstrated on April 28th last year that if it is they're upset with the government and they don't like how the PNM is governing, they will do what they need to do. They would withhold their vote. Some of them might go so far as to offer their vote to the UNC. You UNC supporters, well, you ain't doing that at all. You could suffer, you lost your work under the UNC, but you're still going out there in sun or rain. You're getting up bright and early on the election morning to go and ram your finger in the ink up to your elbow to support that. That's what you all do. That's why you all turned out yesterday. Because you only care about corruption or perceived corruption when the PNM in power. But when your party in power, and you can't defend the wrongdoing, but the PNM do this, and the PNM do that, and the PNM, you should be ashamed of yourself. You all are the most dangerous citizens in this country. And that's why Fitzgerald Hines was correct when he described the UNC as a murky lagoon. You all have no values whatsoever. You all cannot speak to PNM and talk to PNM. You have no moral authority to accuse the PNM of anything. Because PNM supporters show you all how to do it. Unfortunately, if they were like you all would still be in the opposition wilderness all now. but cannot come to defend when you're talking a pack of rubbish. 2.6 billion missing. But the Auditor General is telling you $36 billion in unverified tax revenue. The same thing she accused the PNM of, 2.6 billion. You had to issue with that. Up to this day, they're still talking about that. But now she's telling you 36 billion in unverified revenue, and you coming here to tell me nonsense about PNM getting bad licks in 2013. Because what does that say about you and UNC supporters? What does it say about you all? You're all worse than MAGA. Unpatriotic. Right? You always sit down there and the government could thief all they want. Talk nonsense. You ain't getting, you're benefiting nothing, not 1 penny, not a dime. How has your life improved in the last 12 months? They remove VAT off of 7,000 food items, so they say. Has the price of food come down? People are still complaining prices going up in the grocery, but they told you that's all we need to do and we'll fix it and the cost of living will come down. Has it? No, it has not. Has the food import bill come down? We importing less? No. Is it easier to get US in the bank now than it was 12 months ago? At least 12 months ago, you could have got 200. Now you go to the bank, you can't even get one. And they're telling you if you open an account and bring your own US dollars, you're not guaranteed to get it when you need it. You can't just come in the bank and request it and you get it. It depends on availability. 1 year later, they told you they had the answers. They'll fix it. The Prime Minister told us foreign exchange, forex mafia, and she will provide us with the report shortly. 1 year later, we're still waiting for that report. The central bank governor that they put in place said there's no mafia, and she said, don't listen to you. Where is the report? You have a copy of it, Kishan? You could post it here, post the link here for me now, so I could access it and see all who were part of the mafia. Please, help us. How has your life improved in the last 12 months? The roads paved? You're driving on smooth roads now? Same thing, big potholes. People still crying out for water. You're going to the hospital and you're sick and they're giving you appointments to come back 5 years hence. You're in 2026, but getting an appointment for 2031. 1 year later, still problems. You're going to the hospital. Is it that you could get a bed in 5 minutes of coming to the hospital? Or they're leaving you in a gurney and you're staying in accident and emergency for close to 24 hours or more? Or they have you sitting down in a chair? Because we have had reports. A person's as well 90-something years old, sit down on a chair for almost 48 hours, died in the hospital. Nurses protesting for what you all promised them and didn't give them. There's PNM nurses. Then you have your clowns talking nonsense. Police officer killed in a police station. There's PNM police who kill her in order to make the government look bad. This is the extent of the stupidity that comes out from the house of the fully duns. 1 year later, what they celebrating? What they had to celebrate yesterday? Half of them who stand up there just come there to see what they could get. Or they promise you are 200. Let me give you an example. Right? Some people have no shame. None. Yeah, and look how it pop up. Just what I was about to pull up as soon as I open. Hi, I am truly disappointed in the way we, the people of one of the buses, were treated. This is so unfair. Firstly, we sat waiting nearly 3 hours. Secondly, we were told we would be given light refreshments and never received any of the mentioned. Myself and others, now wet and hungry, had to spend out of pocket to eat, which some of us didn't have money for. To be told from other persons they were paid $200. I feel used and hurt. I am a supporter with or without petty cash for future endeavors. I'd rather find my own transport or not just show up. I can't relate to higher management reasoning. I am texting you. I know you're not in charge. However, please, well, something irrelevant. And this is an individual who posted this. I guess he was sending this to somebody affiliated with the ruling party, right? And his name is Jason X. This fellow who has been warring with Philip Alexander for the last few months on Facebook and on TikTok, exposing how he was used and abused by Philip during the election. I think PNM this and PNM that and PNM so and so. And what happened now? I am surprised that he found himself in this situation. Because up until just a couple of days ago, he was commenting on this post that is going out, supposedly an extract of a court order with respect to Mr. Alexander and some woman that he's alleged to have, whose child he's alleged to have fathered. All right? And this individual, Jason X, spoke about, he was commenting on that. He has been against Philip Alexander. He has been cussing out Philip for the longest while talking about thing. And he was saying they were better off under the PNM. Since Christmas, he was talking about Christmas, the place dead under the PNM. Money would have run on this and that and people would have been employed and out of work. But yet still he found himself down there yesterday, out of desperation, I imagine. But here it is, he's telling you people were paid $200 and he feels used and hurt. He's a supporter. He had to use the little crumbs, or as they like to say, the scrums that he had. Went down there in the rain, he's wet and hungry. That's how they left you. That's how the UNC treats you. Half of me belongs to you. The other half I give to you. There have been prime ministers before me and prime ministers after me, but there will never be a prime minister who loves you as much as I love you. But they leave a little wet and hungry. I'm sure they had the best of food and the best of drink backstage for those who were sitting on stage and of course their chosen supporters. Come in back now. Come on, meet with the prime minister. Come and eat, come and drink. We have premium. They were already dealing premium liquors. I saw it for Carnival in the VIP lounge in the Queen's Park Savannah. Nobody asking where they got money for all that big celebration yesterday. And just as was the case between 2010 to 2015, where every year they had big celebration to mark the anniversary of their, never thought they would have come back into office, but they got through thanks to the, anyway, we'll leave that there. Poor soul. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice. How many times you will get fooled, Jason? How many times you have to get fooled? Some of you are just gluttons for punishment. Or they like punishment. I tell you. Hey, good morning to His Excellency Nigel O'Connor, President of Pleasantville. Miss you, there. Don't care about all that. But let's stand up there, your hands and waist open. Food will share. Some of them looking like some real hungry mouth. That's what you all went down there for? Open what? Promise you all $200 and you'll come just for a crowd. But all of you who are fooled by crowds. But anyway, in the interest of time, because I say I have to leave at 12 o'clock, there was one other issue that I wanted to raise. Well, let's have quite a few, but let me touch on this one. So, last week, the Prime Minister attended a sword-turning ceremony for the launch of what is to be a new Hilton Hotel in San Fernando, which hotel is to be constructed by Mr. John Aboud. Mr. John Aboud, who owns the Bricks Hotel. Mr. John Aboud, who identifies as, or who the UNC identifies as being a 1%. The same 1% that they bad talk for the last 10 years. The same 1% that they claimed had the PNM, Dr. Rowley, in their back pocket. The same 1% that Mrs. Prasad Bisasa told us attempted to own her when she was in office, when she was Prime Minister between 2010 to 2015, and she sent them packing. But yet still, in sending them packing, let us never forget, she used public monies to host a big bram, as we say in local parlance, a big party at the Prime Minister's Diplomatic Center for the same 1%. Wherein, in her speech, her feature address, she told the nation, the wider nation, that if we were to emulate the work ethics of the Syrian Lebanese community, Trinidad and Tobago would be a much better, a much more prosperous country by emulating the work ethic and the practices of the Syrian Lebanese community, who she later vilified as the 1% from 2015 after she demitted office to 2025. But it seems she's now in kumbaya mode and let bygones be bygones. So when Keith Rowley said, there is nothing wrong with the rich getting richer, but the poor must come out of poverty, because when the rich get richer, they create opportunities for the poor. They rake Rowley over the coals. All they kept saying, Rowley said the rich must get richer, full stop. The rich must get richer, full stop. Hold 1 second here. Let me see if I get this thing here, right? But I have to hand it to Mr. Aboud. He's a very smart businessman. He didn't get where he is by chance. Right? Let me see if I get this here. Where is it? So, 1 second. In 1 second. No, I didn't save it. But let me see if I could get it. And of course, the Prime Minister was more than happy to make time. Yes. Let me get this here. To make the time to go and attend this event. All right? She didn't have time to go to the retreat in St. Kitts and Nevis to represent Trinidad and Tobago, to vote on important issues, as such, and has now causing Bacchanal and Couture among CARICOM members. She didn't have time for that. But she had time to go to this. Let me get this here.
Next 60 days or before, as they would, and as you would see from the video behind me, right? We are confident that this project will kick off the Prime Minister's revitalization program, particularly in South Trinidad. This milestone would not be possible without the active support and decisive action by various government ministries and agencies. Our interactions have been positive, advice has been instructive, and decisions prompt. In particular, we wish to express our gratitude to the Ministry of Planning, Economic Affairs and Development, and more particularly, the Town and Country Division and the Environmental Management Authority. Additionally, the Ministry of Trade, Investment and Tourism and its agency, Tourism Trinidad Limited. And of course, our bankers, First Citizen Bank, whose support has been invaluable to me over the last 20 years. We thank you for your continued support and guidance through the process thus far, and look forward to your continued mentoring as the project progresses. As an investor, these interactions have been extremely encouraging and refreshing, which clearly signals the government's intent to move this country forward in a very positive manner to the benefit of the nation at large. Additionally, Madam Prime Minister, I would like to advise you that the entire consultant team for this project, from the architects and all the various disciplines, are Trinbagonians. Indeed, I insisted in my negotiations with Hilton Group that this be so, not only because the talent and competencies are available locally, but will also save valuable foreign exchange and outflows for these consultancy fees. The cost of this project is approximately 220 million TT dollars, and it will take just under 2 years to complete. Construction team, I hope you're hearing this, just under 2 years to complete. So God willing, Madam Prime Minister, on this project, on or about April 28th, 2028, we will be honored to have you cutting the ribbon to open our hotel. I cannot overestimate the support we have received from the various government departments. And it is clear to us that this government, led by the Honorable Prime Minister, is very focused on what needs to be done. Madam Prime Minister, thank you for your leadership and guidance. And I wish to assure you, as investors in our country, we will play our part in ensuring that your objectives are realized. Thank you.
And of course, as has become the norm over the last couple of weeks, with a government that is bereft of any new ideas and also bereft of any achievements or accomplishments of note over the last 12 months, having to piggyback on or trying to take credit for things that were initiated under the PNM. This was just another example. Because this project was announced since 2024 or thereabouts, right? There's 2 Hilton hotels. One in Piaco, which is already well under construction, and this other one in South. But the Foley Duns, desperate for something to say, well, the government do something. Oh, yes, thank you, Madam Prime Minister. You're such a visionary, and thank God the UNC is in power for this to happen, and this government is leading the charge in development and all kind of foolish talk. Where were they 2 years ago when this particular project was announced, when the PNM was in office? When was the hypocrisy in this? This same developer, Mr. Aboud, his company is the same one that wants to build the hotel, the Marriott Hotel in Tobago. The same hotel that the UNC was against when they joined with the TPP to complain about where they wanted in Rocky Bay, where they wanted to locate this hotel. And all kind of excuses they gave as to why they shouldn't build that hotel there, because Amerindian bones were found on the site, and then where the hotel would be located, overlooking where the turtles nest, and the light would affect the turtles, and they had all kind of excuses. Give this man endless pressure to build this hotel in Tobago. Tobago, which desperately needs a hotel of that caliber, because right now their room stock is in the pits. The main hotel, the Magdalena Grand, is in terrible shape from an infrastructure standpoint, needs a lot of work, which is why I am going to Panama and not Tobago for my conference, right? Which should have been held in Tobago if they had the room stock, but they don't, to accommodate the number of persons, right? But now, oh, she's happy. Persona non grata is happy to come and cut ribbon and endorse this project. She sees how it's part of her revitalization effort. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the next couple of months or so, you hear approval has been granted for the construction of the Marriott Hotel in Tobago. Never forget, Dr. Rowley had to put his foot down when he came to his press conference, and he said, that hotel will be built and I will broach no opposition, because Tobago needs room stock, quality room stock, in order to improve its tourism product, and that he is going to ensure that the approvals are granted for that hotel. Right? But today, the UNC, yeah, they were on the bandwagon with the TPP. 1%, Rowley want to sell out Tobago to the 1%, and we want to take on the 1% and the 1%. Whereas Watson Duke, he has gone silent, gone quiet. Nothing to say. Right? When Sanders wanted to come, and oh, Sanders just want them young boy and girl and them to put on white gloves and scissors steel to come and serve the white people. Where all of you all who are complaining? So, when Rowley said there is nothing wrong with the rich getting richer, UNC had a problem with that. 1%, 1%, 1%. Now, supporters at the UNC have no problem with the rich getting richer. The same 1% getting richer, they have a problem with that. Yeah, man, that is good. This hotel, yeah, we need that in South, because South don't have no kind of hotel. All of that. They have 1,010 reasons why this is a good development, and they want to praise Kamla Pasabi-Sessa for that and for bringing this hotel into the Southland, part of our revitalization efforts. So we no longer have a problem with the 1%. Yeah, man, bring all your money and come. Develop. Yes, Trinidad needs to be developed. And we have no problem with them leading the charge. But when the PNM was in power, oh yeah, Rowley's a Oreo, and Rowley only selling out to the 1%, and the 1%, and the 1% owning everything, right. And Faris, but we no longer have a problem with that. So when the PNM was constructing a building, so the rent money that Zaman Enterprises continues to get, and getting for the last year, when the PNM, the building that was supposed to bring that to an end, is now just there, collecting, well, moss growing on it. Nothing happening. No activity, no jobs. So all the citizens who were working on that project, the locals who were gainfully employed and would have been employed for at least another year or so, out of work. Where are they working? Well, government ain't building nothing. They haven't built anything in the last year. Several infrastructure projects that were started and were underway under the previous administration has now come to a halt. And we include in that the EBC head office that was supposed to be built behind the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in St. Clair. That project has stopped. I keep telling you all about that facility that was going up just at the entrance to City Gate. That too has stopped. And several other projects around the country. Just there. Money spent. Right? Money spent. These buildings are well in advance in construction. And it just stopped just so. But we want national revitalization. We want to spend $3.4 billion to build a house. And all these buildings are just there. But all who was complaining, oh, Rowley and the PNM, and they didn't open this and they opened that out of spite, wickedness, and vindictiveness. But the UNC, stop projects. That wasn't spite, that wasn't wickedness, and that wasn't vindictiveness. No, that's good governance. That's good governance. But you heard Mr. Aboud say this hotel going to cost $220 million to build, 140 rooms, $220 million. But the Balize House Companion building doesn't have anything close to 140 rooms, right? But the UNC tell you that building costs over 200 million. But Aboud could build a whole hotel with 140 rooms plus other amenities for 220, and the PNM, according to the UNC, spent over 200 million to build a building that is incomplete and that has nothing close, nowhere close to 140 rooms. All these UNC quantity surveyors, yeah, they know 200 million, 250 million. Really? Well, if that is so, I tell you, PNM get robbed. They needed to hire the same contractor that Mr. Aboud has hired to build his hotel, his $220 million hotel with 140 rooms, right? Because if we spend 200 plus million and that's what we got and it's not finished, and he going to build a whole hotel for 220, there's something wrong. Meanwhile, you have former Minister Suraj Rambachan telling you they could build a whole 15,000 square feet, I think, or more headquarters for, I think he said 15 million or something like that. So they could build a bigger headquarters than the PNM Companion building for 15 million, but the PNM's stupid. We spent 200 million to build that. See how they get exposed? They ain't saying nothing. No. Mind you, last time the UNC was in power, I remember when, but what is now the BRICS was previously the Carlton Savannah, and the same First Citizens Bank had advanced loans to a consortium of businessmen to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars to build the Carlton Savannah. There was no collateral involved, and the hotel went belly up, and Mr. Aboud stepped in and he was able to purchase it and turn it into the BRICS, and it's doing pretty well now. Was that loan ever repaid? Because we know it went into receivership. How much did Mr. Aboud purchase it for? Was it sufficient to satisfy the outstanding balance on the loan? I don't know. Do your research. You might be surprised. I'm just saying that. Right? But when UNC wins, well, now it's better days are ahead. But nobody can articulate what those better days are going to look like. But rest assured, pockets will be filled, because as money continues to run, and when they start to build, as my partner Dean Francois always says, you want a thief, build. And we will see many more companies that have no experience in building houses getting housing contracts. Companies that have no experience in paving road getting road paving contracts. Right? Because they know how to thief. And all the millions and the tens of millions that were spent on their election campaign that is yet to be explained, those things have to be repaid. Exchequer account, increase in the overdraft, 5-point-odd billion in the space of 5 months. So let me say a year. Let's say a year, all right? From 2024 to 2025, from 46 to approximately 52, almost 7 billion. Well, 6 billion. And again, remember this, 10 years under PNM, it went up by 1.3 billion average per year for 10 years. 5 months under the UNC, it went from an average of 1.3 to in 1 year, over $5 billion increase, the highest it has ever been. And the higher it continues to go, it is the more difficult it would be to come out of that overdraft, because it means the government is going to have to make so much money that they are able to cater for 1 year's expenses, put money into the Heritage and Civilization Fund, and still have additional monies that they could now put to pay down that overdraft. And the higher that overdraft goes, is the more money you have to spend on interest, money that should be used to benefit the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, so that when you go to the hospital to get an appointment for an ailment that you're suffering from now, they're not going to give you an appointment into the year 2031. Whereby then, the ailment is likely to kill you. Or it could be so far advanced that there's nothing they could do. They just tell you, well, here what? Go home and dead. That is the situation that people are facing right now. But people like Kishan and what's the other one, Zuku or whatever it is, who like to come here week after week with their foolishness, would not talk about that. Yeah, but I want to tell you, convince you, hey, we are better off today. 1 year of achievement and more to come. 4 years, 3 months, and about 2 weeks left. If their first term, 2010, well, the second term, because we had Pandey, 2010 to 2015 is anything to go by, you still have 4 years, 3 months, and 2 weeks to go. Because trust me, they're going right down to the wire. And if 1 year, their first year in office is anything to go by, well, heaven help us. Saddle up, because you're in for a ride. But when I get the Auditor General's report, we will delve into it further. But rest assured, the supporters of the UNC, all of them there, waiting for their dotish excuses to try and deflect. Jimmy is saying Omari Hines, that slave. Yes, another one. Correct. PF Cutters is saying not only that, companies have no experience in energy, getting energy contracts, allegedly, according to Stuart Young in Parliament. Yes, the farm out project, where they complained about AV drilling and fake oil, but they've been in office for 1 year. They have not come and offered you one shred of evidence to show that AV drilling. Remember, they prosecuted that case, and they say Rowley and the PNM shut down Petrotrin was to protect AV drilling. But 1 year later, they have not been able to come and provide you with one document to prove that that was in fact so. All of a sudden, they stopped talking about fake oil and AV drilling. You all said Munilal is the Minister of Energy. He was the lead prosecutor for the UNC on that matter. Said that he went all the way to Miami to get evidence to show Dr. Rowley and bank account and $500,000 US in wire transfer and so on. And he had all the documents in a file in his drawer, waiting for the police for a whole year, waiting for the police to come and interview him. And they never came. But you in charge now? You are the Minister of Energy? I would have thought by now you would have, well, I like the boss mark. He's the boss mark, man. I would have thought by now he would have come to Parliament and boss mark. Mr. Speaker, I have in my hand here a document, so, and the PNM said, and here is the proof that they shut down Petrotrin because they were trying to protect the vigilant. 1 year later, nothing of the sort. 1 year later. 2.6 billion missing, 1 year later, nothing. They've not got all the mark they like to bust. Nobody has come to the Parliament to bust that mark yet. To say, look, the evidence here, we tell all them, but 2.6 billion, well, look at it. Waiting a whole year now. All this talk from Anil Robert about red couch, walk down the corridor, you pass 2 dogs and a parrot, and you go down some steps, and the red couch, Dr. Rowley used to have women and all kind. A year later, we can't see the picture of the red couch. Where was this red couch? The Prime Minister residence? Well, Dr. Rowley moved out more than a year now. Nobody has been able to take a picture of this red couch. He took it with him. So everybody who was working in the Prime Minister's residence with PNM, nobody thought to take a picture of this infamous red couch. Now, somebody asked me to speak to address Mr. Roberts' comments against Dr. Rowley last week with respect to Dr. Rowley's position, certain things he put out. But I haven't had the opportunity yet to look at that video from him. But when I do, rest assured I will speak to it. So Zuku, wherever it is, here he says, Romain speak about 100% boost in oil production with our new equipment upgrade. UNC, your government doing a few. The man say 100% boost in oil production, you know. So oil production, before they came into office, was at about around 52,000 barrels. It went up by 3,000 barrels. But UNC maths, Kamla-matics, that means 100% boost. Now, based on my mathematics, 100% boost means you're supposed to be producing about over 100,000 barrels of oil now, right? 100% increase, boost. So if it was 52 before, it's supposed to be 104 now. That's what 100% means. But like his maths, just like this, the secretary for health in the US, what's his name? RFK. Last week when he talking about a 600% increase. So if something is $100 and it goes up 600%, you go to 600, and if it comes back down by 600%, it's 100, and yeah. So that's this Zuku coming here with UNC maths to tell us that 3,000 increase in the amount of 3,000 barrels per day equates to 100% boost. And these people could vote. These people have a right to go to the poll on election day and stain their finger and cast a ballot. You all see where we are? Lord Father, put a hand. Put a hand. I tell you. Let me see, boy. Why PNM couldn't simply do an equipment upgrade like Munilal? What equipment upgrade did Munilal do? Zuku, listen, let me tell you something. If you're going to come here to try and engage me, understand, right? I operate in a certain way. Don't come here with no triple talk. Do your research, please. I don't know what equipment upgrade you're talking about, but the majority of the increase in the oil, the amount of oil that we're producing on a daily basis has come about as a result of the independent producers, right? Independent producers. The majority of it. The EOG and the Touchstone and these companies have nothing to do with the government. So they are investing in their equipment. It has nothing to do with Munilal. So I don't know what equipment they're talking about when Munilal invested and why the PNM couldn't think. And a whole year later, they still cannot find a buyer for the refinery. You all made it seem like it was so easy. Yes. If I would advise anybody, if you all could go back, those of you who didn't have the opportunity to do it, pull up I-95.5, right? The I-95 mandate last week, Friday, with Adine Sergiu, Mariano Brown, and Lawford Dupree. If you didn't get a chance to listen to that interview with Mr. Dupree, go and listen to it in its entirety and listen to Mr. Dupree explain, because he has been in the energy sector for over 60 years. Listen to him explain the situation that the Petrotrin refinery was in at the point of shutdown, and even before that. And let him explain to you why this narrative from the UNC that Petrotrin was making how much billions of dollars in profit and was profitable. Listen to him explain, and he has provided insights that I have not heard anybody before speak about. So just go back on Facebook, pull up I-95.5, pull up last week Friday's I-95 mandate, and listen to that interview. And listen to Mr. Dupree rubbish the nonsense that the UNC supporters have been talking about Petrotrin and the refinery. Go and listen to him. But of course, they will say he's PNM. That's what they will say, PNM. Utter rubbish. So you want me to talk about the 100%? I don't know 100% you're talking about. I want you to come here and talk to me about the exchequer account going up, the overdraft increased by $5 billion. I want you to tell me what the UNC spent that $5 billion on in the last, in 5 months, because this is between May and September. This is not for the last 6 months or 7 months. We're talking May. What did the UNC spend that $5 billion on in that 5 months? Please tell me one thing they built. Tell me how many roads they paved. Because I heard the Prime Minister say they created 15,000 jobs. 15,000 jobs, but yet still, every time they come in Parliament, the only jobs they mention was the 1,801 jobs created under the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure, which they're struggling to find money to maintain. I never hear them whole year All these jobs created, never once did they come, right? When Kareem brought his motion and Pararat spoke, the only figures he could mention was 1,801 jobs created under the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure. He made no mention of any jobs being created under his ministry or any other ministry. But Madam Persona non grata come yesterday with a whole report to tell you that they create over 15,000 jobs in the last 12 months. But the only figure she quoted was the 18 that she quoted that we've heard before was that 1,800. So where this other 13,000 jobs came from, and when did that hiring take place? When? Imagine they quoting things like this program, the same POPs I talk about, program for the upkeep of public spaces. You're quoting things like that. The 1,000 people that you hired for 1 month for Carnival and talking about your created jobs. That program came to an end after 1 month. These people are out of work. The people whose names I advanced in December ringing down my phone here, well, getting back my worker. I just want to know what to do. What to do? I should sign up? What I said, well, go ahead. I don't know, because up until that time, we didn't know anything. They didn't ask us for any names. But they come, what was it? Thursday or Friday, to tell us they want 2 names and they want it by 10 o'clock the following morning. I don't know what to do. So they asked me what to do. I said, well, listen, I really don't know. They asked me for 2 names. You need to inquire, right? Because I need to know if I need to resubmit the 2 names that I sent in December or if I could submit 2 new names. Because one of the persons whose name I sent in December, he was telling me, well, the foreman told them, hey, they inside, they're good. He ensuring that they're coming back. So I said, if that is the case, let me know, confirm that, please, so that I can submit 2 new names to give 2 additional persons employment. If you inside, don't make sense, I send back your name and then I waste the names. So it seems that they get through. But where these 15,000 jobs came from? When? Where? How is it that we only now hearing about this? This Prime Minister who loves to come to the Parliament every opportunity she gets to make a statement and announce this and announce that. Never did that before. So this information came to you when? Friday night? Thursday? Up to 15,000 jobs created? And you ain't talking all the time, you're only getting lash, but you say you were creating how much 1,000 jobs and it was only 1,800. So you taking licks for that for the last 10 months, 11 months, and decide only to come yesterday and tell the population that? Well, you already feel we born last week, yes? As I keep telling PNM supporters, make sure you all walk with a picture of your birth certificate on your phone, right? So anytime you encounter a UNC supporter and they come to sell you that cock and bull, take out your phone and let them know, look, you see my date of birth, I wasn't born yesterday, right? I didn't come down on the last shower rain. Miss us with that BS summer, please. By the way, so there was one more thing, right? Let me look at it. Oh gosh, I need to leave. So this bill that they came with in the Senate last week with respect to, the labor bill, forgive me, I don't have the exact name of it. It's going to come to the House soon, House for us to debate, right? But one of the things that the PNM proposed as an amendment is for them to make this legislation retroactive. What is the benefit of that? And the PNM advancing that is to ensure that if they make it retroactive, all of the CPEP workers and the URP workers and who not would be entitled to get some sort of back pay, right? Or some sort of severance benefit, which they did not get. All they got was 1 month's pay after they were fired. And if this new law, if it is made retroactive by 1 year, which the PNM is requesting, then all of these workers would be entitled to get some money, some severance money. So we wait to see if this government that claims that they so love and they so care, and according to the Prime Minister, better days are ahead, if they are going to accept this recommendation and this amendment from the PNM to make this law retroactive by 1 year so that all of these struggling workers who are still without work, many of them, could be able to get some sort of severance. All they're boasting about is, let's see if they will support the PNM's request to be able to give these workers something, or if they just on mama guy and chop it talk. Because every time we offer an amendment, they don't ever take it. So to the CPEP workers, URP workers, and everybody else, forestry and who not, who lost their jobs and you got nothing, PNM, again, we told you we are looking after you. We are attempting to convince the government to make this legislation retroactive by 1 year so that you all could get some money. If they say no, and they decided not accepting that amendment, well, let's understand which party is really for you and who is looking after you and who is concerned about you. And this is no politics thing, because it's an easy request on the government's part, right? Because you all sent home these workers with 1 month's pay. I don't know what the hell you expected them to do with that. Today, many of them are still without work. So this is the least you could do to compensate them. All right? So we will see how that goes. All right? And then I think there's one more thing. The leader of the opposition will be doing a State of the Nation address. Let me see. I believe this is on, right. State of the Republic, Wednesday, April 29, 2026 at 6 p.m. at the City Hall in Port of Spain. The Honorable Penelope Beckles, leader of the opposition and political leader of the People's National Movement, will address the national community on the state of our nation of Trinidad and Tobago 1 year after the general election of 2025. This will be an honest assessment and thought-provoking address as we consider the realities confronting the people. So join us at City Hall, Port of Spain on Wednesday evening. Be seated at 5:30 p.m. for a prompt start at 6 p.m. and tune in live on all PNM social media platforms. Don't miss it. Together, we must save our nation. All right? So look out for that. Slimy Show is saying, when you bring my son on your well, all right. Make sure to spell. Yes, that's what Philip Alexander said. His son, who is now his shadow, right? Who, based on what was said by his stepfather, Winston Ragu, that Philip Alexander's son would have changed his name, his last name from Alexander to Hussein, taken his mother's name. And yeah, that was our next piece of bacchanal. We're going to talk about that another time. So let me see. So I definitely will not be on next week Sunday, folks. As I said, I will be out of the country from the 1st to the 10th of May, which has 2 Sundays, and then the following Sunday. So I'll try to see if I could fit in the live during the week, or if not, I may have to do it the following Saturday. All right, so see here. Omari Hines, where is he? You know, the interesting thing is that people like Omari and them, they still keep coming here every week to listen. If what I talking is rubbish, if I telling lies, why do you all keep coming back here? Other than to be trolls. And you can never make a point that a valid point. Any point that you throw out, you're getting debunked. So come now, man. You don't have anything, no UNC radio station you can listen to, no UNC propagandists you can go and listen to. You all keep coming here. You know why? Because the truth is addictive. You all can't help yourselves. Oh, Lord. Mary Hines says, Penny dumb. Oh, Penny is dumb, nothing of substance, nobody afraid you. Who afraid Kamala? Who's afraid of Kamala? Anybody? Nope. And that's why, yes, thank you for reminding me, Mikhail. Indira Rampasad is the chairman of the Nihilist board. It seems that all that singing she has done for her supper finally paid off. And then have plenty more of them who would look at situations like this and say, hey, it's still our boards, boy. Let me continue to sing for my supper. And let me see what I could get. The school teacher who is the counselor, the one who took sick leave to campaign, right? When he was supposed to be in the classroom teaching your children, he was out campaigning and but putting in sick leave saying he's sick. That fraud. So I see they made him the chairman of the National Museum and Art Committee or something like that. Yeah, they're rewarding all of their counselors. Whether they have the qualifications or not is beside the point. Because I saw at least one person on that board who's just an ordinary director who has all of the qualifications, in my view, to be the chairman. Right? And this is somebody who I would have worked with at the National Trust, and she is well accomplished, and she would have been the ideal person. But at least she's on the board, but she should have been the chairman, not this guy, because I don't know what qualifies him to be the chairman, but for the UNC, you don't need to be qualified. The only qualification you need to be is a blind sycophant, and you're getting handled. Yeah. And for all the UNC supporters who want to say talk about Delcy, yeah, Delcy taking that she's a puppet for Donald Trump and that she has to take instructions. I will leave you with this. Do not forget that the Prime Minister of Grenada, Dickon Mitchell, unlike your Prime Minister, refuse the radar. He say, don't bring that here. Because you see, if anything happen, and we don't want Grenada to be pelting no missiles here. All right? We don't move here. As a result of that, Grenada was excluded. They were not invited like most of the rest of CARICOM, save and except for Trinidad and Tobago and Guyana. They were not invited to the Shield of America conference that lasted, summit that lasted for an hour and a half. And also, I think there were some officials in Grenada as well who would have lost their US visa as a result of, suspected as a result of that decision or that position taken by the Grenadian government. Be that as it may, it's interesting that the puppet, as UNC call her, Trump's puppet, Delcy, decided to, the first place that foreign country she traveled to after sanctions were lifted on her was Grenada. Right? Now, if she's a puppet, I don't think she would have gone to Grenada. If she's a puppet, I think the first place she would have come is Trinidad and Tobago, because that's where the puppet master would have told her to go. If he say go Trinidad, that's where you go. You don't go to Grenada, but refused our radar system. You don't go there. You don't go to Grenada, which we have a country which we have an issue with. You go to Trinidad and Tobago. So if, in fact, she's a puppet and up north is the puppet master, then clearly he ain't doing a good job of being a puppet master, because this puppet seems to be doing her own thing that really and truly confronts or goes against the grain of what the puppet master is about. So think about that next time you want to call Delcy a puppet master. And I think if in fact a puppet, sorry, and if she was in fact a puppet by now, Mrs. Prasad Bisesa would have gone to Venezuela, or Delcy would have come here, and we would be hearing that about Dragon, and that the arrangement that existed under the PN and the profit sharing, production sharing arrangement is what we would be looking forward to, and not an arrangement where Shell talking to Venezuela, and all we may stand to benefit from is a little cacada from our shareholding in Atlantic LNG. That's it. So clearly, Delcy hasn't gotten the memo that she's a puppet. So maybe you all in the UNC need to send her that memo again now, because she needs to be reminded she's a puppet because she's not behaving like one. Yes, the same puppet. Starboy. So folks, we'll chat again soon. All right, let me see, let me work out my schedule and see what I can do. Because there are a lot of other things I needed to discuss that I didn't get to, and not in the detail that I would like to. But I am not going to let this Auditor General's report rest at all. Same way the UNC prosecuted it when the PNM was in power for 2 years. We're going to talk about this, and I'm certain there are other things inside it that the media hasn't gotten its hands on yet and may not touch, but I will. All right, so stay tuned. Delcy will do outbidding. Right. We will see. Delcy, all you underestimate Delcy. Go ahead. When last all I hear Trump talk about Venezuela anyway? Mr. Trump's sights has moved from Venezuela. His focus now is on Iran. Right? That's where his headache is right now. And then after that, Cuba. So right now, Venezuela is like, just high oil price, the United States of America benefiting from it because they have plenty oil and they have fuel to sell. Don't mind the price of fuel in the US has gone up. And so his country benefiting really and truly. So he couldn't care two hoots. And just remember, Mr. Trump has less than 3 years left in office. Right? So come 2029, January 20th, 2029, Mr. Trump will be boarding Air Force One for the last time as he and the First Lady make their way into the sunset, and there will be a new government in power. But Delcy will still be president of Venezuela because she's there, unlike Mr. Trump, who's there for 4 years. She will be there for 5. And she just started. Okay? So bear that in mind. So all we want to cross and say the worst things about Delcy. She will be there 2 years plus after Mr. Trump has departed office. So continue UNC supporters to antagonize Delcy. And if all you feel they don't read, they don't watch social media, right? Okay. Iran have him very busy. And worse yet, if he loses the midterms, well, now he has no time with Delcy, he has no time with Venezuela. That's the least of his worries. So whatever going on there, but it is what it is. That's really not a priority for them. I'm seeing here, Anon is saying Maduro one part of his case. Very good. You see, Delcy is the interim president. Interim, you all keep saying that. Let me leave it at interim until when? Interim until when? Up North already made it abundantly clear that he is not interested in any elections in Venezuela anytime soon, right? And so the only other person who could call election is Delcy. You feel Delcy gonna call any election before this term runs out? No, she's not. All right, and this term is supposed to run until when? 2031? Why would she go and put herself in that? She good. So she's going to try over the course of the next 5 years to show herself, to revive Venezuela, right? And to see if she could win back the confidence. Because people had a problem with Maduro. Win back the confidence of the people of Venezuela. Where is Miss Machado? When last I hear about her? Where is Juan Guaido? Where? Mr. Trump has made it clear. Ms. Machado is not, she doesn't have the support and she's not strong enough to be president of Venezuela. He clearly has more confidence in Delcy. Now, if he wanted a puppet, Ms. Machado would have been the better option as opposed to Delcy, because Delcy still has loyalties to Maduro. She's part of that administration and she's a lot more hardline than Ms. Machado, who decided in an attempt to curry favor to Trump to give him her Nobel Peace Prize medal. And that didn't help her. And sing his praises, and with all of that, all the kowtowing, the only thing she didn't do was to bend down and kiss his foot. And it still didn't help her. Where is she today? The supposed legitimate president. That she was the legitimate winner. Where is she? And Mr. Trump has cast her aside. So without his support, just as took place in 2018, where there was all this thing and they claimed that the election was rigged and Maduro this, and Maduro stayed there for his full 6 years. And it has happened again. So Delcy in interim. Delcy is the president. She was sworn in, all right? And she's not no acting because the substantive, who is Nicolas Maduro, is in a U.S. prison. And unless and until he is released, she remains the president. And we don't foresee Mr. Maduro coming out of that prison anytime soon. All right? Unless Trump give him a pardon, which is not going to happen. So for all intents and purposes, Delcy is the president of Venezuela. All right? So folks, we will chat again soon. Enjoy the rest of your week and make it a productive one. Mary Hines said we get in a hotel in South. PNM would never. They'd quicker put it in Laventille. Mary, let me bust your bubble, eh? I'll bust your bubble because I get clearly you are one of those who, yeah. Let me see if I get this here for you. Well, if you like, go and leave me here forever and ever, you may not lie, you know. Let me get this here. Let me just read something quick for you. All of you who are uninformed. Where is it? I just feel sorry for all this. Poor souls. So let me get this here. 1 second. So I know they like to keep me here now, Mary. You're nothing better to do with your Sunday. Come now, man. Carry the family out now. See. Get it here. Let's see. Since 2024, that was announced. But apparently, yes, even Omari was so busy cussing the PNM that he didn't know that. So now he feels this is a UNC. He's another one who feels this is a UNC achievement. Poor soul. Just now, let me get it here. Where this thing is, buddy? So many things I save here, my Lord Father. All right, I'm gonna try this route. Give me 1 second. 2024. Right. Where is it? Nope, that's not. Maria, again, my unnecessary work here, no. Right, 2nd of November, 2024. You listening? 2nd of November, 2024. And you could go on and new hotels, you see this here, Mary? Right, the light on it there, so you can't see it. New hotels to boost TNT's accommodation sector. Guardian, Trinidad and Tobago Guardian dated the 10th, or rather the 1st of November, 2024, 540 days ago. And it reads, you listening to Mary? TNT's accommodation sector will get an additional boost with 2 hotels carrying the Hilton brand due to join Trinidad's accommodation sector in the next 2 years. Steel is already in the ground, marking the commencement for the construction of the Hilton Hampton Inn in Piaco. So the steel was already in the ground, Omari, in November of 2024. While the Hilton Garden Inn, to be located at South Park in San Fernando, is expected to begin construction in the first half of 2025, the developer for Hilton Hampton Inn in Piaco is Call Hotels, while Superior Hotels is the developer for the Hilton Garden Inn in South Park. Superior Hotels is the company behind the Autograph, the Autograph by Bricks and the Rocky Point development in Tobago. The construction of the new hotels not only adds to TNT's existing room stock, but will foster job creation and have a positive domino effect for the economy. Tourism Minister Randall Mitchell, not Kama Maraj. Randall Mitchell saying this, right, Omari? So, since the PNM was in power, that hotel was earmarked for South. And in case you're thinking it's not a government building that, right? Superior Hotels, which is owned by John Aboud, private, 1%, Syrian Lebanese community, he is building that. And he took a decision since 2024 to build this hotel in South when the PNM was in power, Omari. The PNM. So this nonsense you're coming here to talk about the PNM, but I put it in Laventille and UNC. This decision was taken long before the UNC came into power, Omari. But again, when all you don't know and come in here, all you're not serious, boy. All you're not serious. Hey, boy. Do better than that now. PNM promise never materialized. Yes, Zuku. All right. Really? PNM promise never materialized? Well, okay, if you say so. How are you enjoying that? Anyway, let me not go there. Folks, we will chat again soon. Because these fellas intend to keep me here and I have my duties, right, to perform. Okay? Many plans and promised by PNM, but no fruition. What plans do UNC promise here? What plans? Tell us now. Oh, they're buying into that choppy talk from the UNC. Yes, they love to live on lies, a constant diet of lies. But Mari wouldn't talk. He still wouldn't tell me about the waterfront project in San Fernando that the UNC stopped. How come they didn't put that in Laventille, Omari? How come all the housing that they were going to build and all the commercial spaces that the PNM had started, all the money that they spent to reclaim land and so on for that site, Omari, PNM didn't put it in Laventille, they didn't put it in Diego Martin, they didn't put it in Malabar Mausika, they put it in San Fernando, Omari. Apparently you missed that. I'm wondering if you're really from South, but you had nothing to say about it. The UNC stopped that project. Only thing it have there is dust in the wind, tumbleweeds like if it's gun smoke or bonanza. Right? That's what the UNC left you with down there, but you come into boast a private project by the 1% who all it costs for 10 years. You come in to big up that as if it's a UNC accomplishment. And what the PNM government was doing, the UNC government stopped that. And you there, like a deer in headlights, coming to defend stupidness. But all you need help, yes? Folks, later.